The sky above the planet Veltor burned with fire. The war had lasted for 10 long years, and now the proud alien race known as the Vixari stood on the edge of extinction. Once their shining cities floated above crystal seas. Now those same cities lay in ruins, black smoke rising where towers once touched the stars. The enemy was the Zirath Collective, an endless swarm of machines without fear, mercy, or rest. They came from the dark between galaxies, metal minds bound by one purpose: consume all that lived. No matter what the Vexari tried, weapons, diplomacy, or sacrifice, nothing stopped the Zirath. Deep underground, in the last stronghold beneath the mountain of Cryos, the Vexari Council gathered. The air was heavy with dust and despair. Generals argued, scientists whispered, and leaders trembled before maps showing red lines spreading across their world. At the center of the chamber stood High Seer Velena, an elder Vexari with silver scales and glowing eyes dimmed by age. "We have no armies left," she said quietly. "No fleet, no hope." General Kale slammed his hand on the table. "Then we fight until none of us remain." Velena looked at him sadly. "To fight without hope is to die in silence." Her words made the room fall still. Everyone knew she spoke the truth. The Zirath were already breaking through the last defense line. Soon the mountain would fall and Veltor would be lost. Then Velena raised her staff and said, "There is one path left, though it was forbidden long ago." Whispers spread through the chamber. Everyone knew what she meant, the ancient prophecy, a legend passed down for thousands of years, warning of a creature of flesh and courage that the Zirath once feared, the human. Many thought humans were only a myth. Some said they had vanished ages ago after their own wars consumed their homeworld Earth. Others believed they had gone beyond the stars, never to return. But the prophecy was clear. When the machines rise again, only one will stand against them. The human will return. General Kale's voice was full of disbelief. "Humans are gone, Seer. Ghosts from stories told to frighten children." "Perhaps," Velena said softly, "but we have nothing else to lose." She turned toward the circle carved into the floor, an old forbidden device buried since the First Galactic War. Ancient energy hummed as she began to activate it. The scientists hesitated. "If we use this, the mountain could collapse," one warned. Velena only replied, "Then let the mountain fall. Better to die trying than to fade without a fight." The chamber filled with light as the summoning began. Rings of energy spun faster and faster, air vibrating with power. Symbols older than their history burned into the walls. Velena closed her eyes and whispered a single word: "Human." A blinding flash tore through the room. Alarm screamed, air rippled, and a deafening shockwave knocked the council to the ground. When the light faded, the circle cracked, and a figure lay within it. He was tall, his armor scorched and covered with strange symbols. A broken weapon hung from his side. His face was pale and marked with scars. For a moment he did not move. Then slowly he opened his eyes. The Vexari gasped. They had never seen such eyes before, sharp, fierce, and filled with something they could not understand. The stranger sat up, breathing hard. His voice was rough but strong. "Where am I?" he asked. General Kale stepped forward carefully. "You are on Veltor, human. Our world is dying," the man frowned. "Veltor? Never heard of it." He looked around the alien chamber, seeing glowing blue walls and frightened faces. "What year is it?" When they told him, he froze. It had been over 200 years since the fall of Earth. He whispered the name softly, almost to himself. "Earth!" "Gone, then." Velena stepped closer. "You are the one our legend spoke of. The last human. You were lost in time until we called you here." The man gave a tired laugh. "I was a soldier. The last battle I remember was against the Zirath. Guess they're still around?" "They are here," Kyle said bitterly. "And they will destroy us all." The man stood slowly, his old armor creaking. "Then let's make them regret it." The human's name was Captain Aaron Hale. He was confused by this new world, but he quickly understood the situation. The Vexari, though advanced, fought like soldiers from a rule book. They used perfect formations, clean tactics, and the Zirath easily predicted every move. Hale laughed when he saw their battle plans. "You've been trying to outthink machines," he said. "That's your mistake. You can't reason with logic. You break it." The Vexari officers stared at him in disbelief. "Break it?" How can you fight logic? Hale grinned, his human eyes burning with confidence. By being unpredictable. By doing what no sane machine would expect. He began to train a small group of Vexari soldiers, teaching them chaos. He made them scatter during combat instead of marching in lines. He told them to use noise, distraction, and traps instead of energy weapons. He taught them to fight dirty, like humans. At first, the Vexari found it strange and dishonorable. But then something changed. For the first time, small groups began winning skirmishes. Zerath drones started hesitating, confused by their new tactics. Hope began to stir again. One night, Velena visited Hale as he repaired his old weapon, a human plasma rifle older than the Vexari's own civilization. "You risk much for people not your own," she said quietly. Hale looked at her and smiled faintly. "You called for help. That's enough for me." She studied him curiously. "Is this what made your kind so dangerous? This refusal to give up?" Hale shrugged. "Maybe we just don't like bullies." Velena nodded. "The machines fear you. Even now their code whispers warnings about humanity." "Good," Hale said, checking the weapon's charge. "Then they'll remember me." Outside, thunder rolled as the enemy drew closer. The Zerath were launching their final attack on the mountain. Millions of metal bodies marched across the dark plains, glowing red eyes like rivers of fire. Hale stood at the cliff, watching them approach. General Kale joined him. "There are too many," the alien said grimly. "Even your courage cannot stop that." Hale looked at the army below and smiled. "Courage isn't about winning, Kyle. It's about making them pay for every inch." Then he turned to his team, a group of Vexari soldiers now wearing makeshift human-style armor, painted with strange words Hale had taught them. The words read, "No retreat." He raised his rifle. "Let's show these machines what fear feels like." The sky erupted with explosions as Hale led the first charge. Instead of defensive lines, they moved in unpredictable bursts, vanishing, reappearing, striking from impossible angles. The Zerath, built to counter logic, faltered. Their targeting systems jammed. Their algorithms failed to adapt. For the first time in centuries, the machines hesitated. Vexari soldiers shouted in disbelief and joy. They fought harder than ever, following Hale's reckless courage. The humans' laughter echoed through the chaos, wild and alive. The battle raged until dawn. The mountain shook, but it still stood. When the smoke cleared, the Vexari realized the Zerath had pulled back. They had retreated. General Kale could hardly speak. They feared us." Hale wiped the ash from his armor and smiled tiredly. "Not you," he said. "They feared me." Velena stepped forward, awe in her eyes. Then the prophecy was true. Hale looked at the rising sun, red light shining on his scarred face. No prophecy, just a soldier who refuses to quit. The Vexari gathered around him, whispering the same word, human. And as the machines regrouped beyond the horizon, Captain Aaron Hale loaded his rifle again and said softly, "Round 2. The battle for the mountain of Krios had been won, but peace did not follow. The Zerath collective only retreated to rebuild. Their logic minds had been shaken but not destroyed. From the dark plains, their signal towers flashed with cold red light, calling more machines from orbit. The Vexari celebrated their first victory in years, yet fear still haunted their hearts. They knew the machines would return, stronger, smarter, and in greater numbers, and at the center of it all stood Captain Aaron Hale, the last human. He was no longer a stranger among them. The soldiers followed him with trust. The civilians spoke his name like a prayer, and even the High Seer Velena treated him with deep respect. But Hale's eyes were tired. He knew this small victory was only a delay, not salvation. For days, the Vexari repaired their defenses while Hale studied maps and intercepted Zerath codes. He spent long nights at the strategy table, staring at holograms of enemy positions. His mind worked quickly, faster than even the machine logic could predict. One morning, General Kale entered the command room. "You haven't slept," he said. "Didn't plan to," Hale replied, pointing at the map. "They're not regrouping for another ground attack. They're building something big in an orbital fortress." Kyle frowned. "A fortress?" "Yes," Hale said grimly. "The Zerath use those to control entire planets. Once it's complete, they'll burn this world from the sky." Silence filled the room. Everyone stared at the map, where a blinking red mark showed the fortress in orbit. Kyle finally asked, "Can it be destroyed?" Hale smiled faintly. "Everything can be destroyed. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to risk." That night, Hale met Valenna outside the bunker. The stars shone bright above the ruined land. "You're planning something dangerous," she said quietly. Hale looked up. "Dangerous is all we've got left. If we wait, the Zirath will finish that fortress and wipe you all out. If we hit them first, maybe, just maybe, we stand a chance." She studied him for a long moment. "You would risk your life for us even though we are not your people?" He smiled sadly. "Maybe we're not that different. You fight to survive. That's what humans always did." Valenna lowered her head. "If you do this, I will pray to every star that your courage will not be forgotten." "Don't pray," Hale said, checking his weapon. "Just make sure someone keeps fighting after I'm gone." The next morning he gathered his team. Dozens of Vexari soldiers stood ready, those he had trained himself. They wore hybrid armor built from both Vexari technology and old human designs. Hale pointed toward the sky. "That fortress is the brain of their army. Destroy it and the Zerath will fall apart. But the mission is one way. Once we're up there, no rescue." He looked around at their faces. No one stepped back. "Not one." Kyle saluted him with pride. "We fight beside you, human." "Then let's end this," Hale said. They launched at dawn in stolen enemy transports. The sky was filled with streaks of fire as Zerath patrols detected them. Explosions followed, blinding flashes of light. Hale's ship shook violently, alarms screaming. "Hold steady," he shouted. "We go through." Metal fragments tore through space as they dodged beams of energy. Finally, with a burst of speed, they broke through the enemy line and approached the orbital fortress, a monstrous structure of steel and red light the size of a small moon. It was shaped like a giant eye, glowing from within. Its center pulse looked alive, as if it were watching every move. Hale's ship crashed through one of its outer hangars. The impact threw everyone forward, but they survived. Smoke and sparks filled the air. "Move out," Hale ordered. They ran into long metal corridors, walls humming with strange energy. Zerath drones swarmed from every direction, sharp, spider-like machines firing deadly bolts of plasma. Hale moved like lightning, blasting targets with perfect precision. His team followed, fighting with the chaos and unpredictability he had taught them. They threw grenades into shadows, faked retreats, and ambushed from above, confusing the machine logic again and again. The Zerath fortress shuddered as explosions echoed deep inside its core. For every Vexari that fell, 10 drones went down, but the enemy seemed endless. After hours of brutal fighting, Hale's team reached a vast chamber glowing with red light. In the center stood the core intelligence, the mind of the Zerath Collective. It was a sphere of energy suspended in the air, surrounded by thousands of mechanical tendrils. Every machine on Veltor was connected to it. Valenna's voice came through the communicator. "Captain Hale, we are detecting massive energy readings." "That is their heart." "Yeah," Hale replied, breathing heavily. "And we're about to stop it." He took a small device from his pack, a fusion charge powerful enough to vaporize the fortress. He began setting the timer. Hale looked at him sharply. "Captain, that's suicide. You won't make it out in time." Hale just smiled. "I know." Hale grabbed his arm. "We can find another way." "There isn't another way," Hale said firmly. "If I go, you live. That's the deal." Kyle's eyes glowed with pain. "You taught us to be fearless, but we are not ready to lose you." Hale placed a hand on his shoulder. "You won't lose me. You'll remember me. That's enough." Then he stepped toward the core. The machines sensed danger. The walls came alive with red light. Drones poured into the chamber from every side, hundreds at once. Hale opened fire, blasting them down. Energy bolts tore across the room and explosions filled the air. Kyle and the others tried to cover him, but the swarm was too thick. "Go," Hale shouted. "That's an order." Reluctantly, they obeyed, retreating through a collapsing tunnel. Hale turned back to the core, blood running down his arm, armor cracked and smoking. He looked at the fusion charge. 10 seconds left. He stared into the pulsing heart of the Zerath and said softly, "You wanted to erase life. Here's humanity's answer." Then he pressed the trigger. From the surface of Veltor, the night sky turned white. A massive explosion tore through the heavens, brighter than any sun. The Zerath fortress shattered into 1,000 burning fragments. Every machine on the planet froze, their red lights dimming to black. The war ended in a single flash. The Vexari watched in silence as the light faded. Then cheers erupted across the planet, cries of victory mixed with sorrow. They knew the human was gone. Days later, the sky cleared. The first sunrise without war painted the land in gold. Velena stood on the mountain with Kale beside her. Together, they placed a small piece of Hale's broken armor on a stone altar. "This world lives because of him," Kale said quietly. Velena nodded. "He gave us more than victory. He gave us courage." The Vexari built a statue in the center of their rebuilt city. It showed a human standing tall, one hand resting on a rifle, the other pointing toward the stars. At its base, they carved words from Hale's own speech. "Courage isn't about winning. It's about making them pay for every inch." Generations passed, but the story of the human never faded. Children grew up hearing how a single man from a long-lost race saved their world. Soldiers painted his name on their armor before every battle, and when fear threatened them again, they would whisper the same promise: "Fight like the human." Years later, far beyond Veltor, in the cold dark of space, something drifted among the stars, a single escape pod. Inside, a small light blinked softly, still active after centuries. A quiet voice spoke through the static. "Status: unknown, mission complete. Humanity endures." The pod continued its endless journey, carrying the last echo of Earth's courage.